republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone could remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of our military, police officers, firefighters who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Thank you. You may be seated. President, roll call be taken? Yes. And I just ask everyone to keep their voices up. For those in the audience, if you can't hear us, just put your hand up. And also I'd ask everyone to keep the talking amongst yourself down. There are a lot of people here and we want everyone to be able to hear. Chief Will, if you could start with the introductions.
Brian Will, Fire Chief.
Mike Gilder, City Attorney.
Scott Sutter, Chief of Police.
Don Grice, DPW Director.
Brooke Hart, City Treasurer. Tessa Sweeney, City Clerk.
Brad Dick, City Councilor.
Brenda Simon, City Councilor.
Elizabeth Armstrong, City Councilor. Cam Howard, Mayor Pro Tem.
Danielle Kusa, Mayor.
Alan Glass, City Manager.
Ray Colbert, City Councilor.
Thank you. We have no public hearing or special presentation. The first item on our agenda is correspondence. There was a letter attached as part of the packet, which was in response to the petition that was submitted with respect to West Rolston Road. I believe Ellen had something, an update with respect to West Rolston Road.
Yeah. I figured it was probably the best time to do it is when during correspondence and stuff. And as far as specifics in reference to the bond referendum petition, I'll leave that to Mike to answer any of those types of questions and stuff. But we were all hoping tonight to be able to award bids for Rolston Road. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. We know that you as residents and us as staff and City Council are frustrated with that timeline. But we have had some positives. So the city was the recipient of a $250,000 grant from MDOT. Now because of the MDOT process, that's kind of slowed things up a bit. We have to get prior approval from MDOT and navigate through the MDOT process before we can actually award any bid for Rolston Road. And Don, correct me if I'm wrong in conveying that information. So we bid the projects. We finally had bids come back. We had 8 bids on Rolston Road, all come in under engineers' estimates. Low bid being about $1.4 million, 19,000. So our engineer then has to take those bids and quantify those bids. And again, like I said, work through the MDOT process, make sure they're MDOT certified, all the things. Our engineers have been engaged with MDOT to discuss next steps and what that process looks like in granting us approval to move forward. So tonight we have very, very preliminary numbers based on the estimated low bid. Okay, and I'm going to share those, but please just keep in mind that it's very preliminary and it's a fluid situation, so things could potentially change as they, like I said, quantify the bids. We go through the MDOT process. There's a lot of things that are just estimated. So I just want to make that clear, and I don't want anyone to be misunderstood in that point. So again, we're working off of the low bid being the one that is awarded. And so I know that everyone has been frustrated with the fact that the city hasn't been able to share what the formula looks like. But you have to understand that this project is very different than the project that we did in Lindenwood because of the nature of the parcels that are involved in the district. So overall, we only have approximately 30 parcels. But one of those parcels being Shiawassee Shores, and I know we have representatives from Shiawassee Shores here as well, but one of those parcels having approximately 270 some homes roughly in there. So we communicated in the beginning of this process that the city was going to try to find an equitable and fair formula to be able to make sure that that was taken into consideration, right? We also communicated that we were going to try to do the same for the commercial properties that fell within that, because we also realized the nature of those businesses and the traffic and the type of traffic that they bring to Rolston Road. So, all that being said, as And we've also done, and to back up a little bit further, we've also done traffic counts to support the traffic on the road and the traffic that is actually generated by Shiawassee Shores. And 80%, Don, is that what we found was supported? So 80% of the traffic that is on Rolston Road is generated from Shiawassee Shores. So as we work through the formula, again, very preliminary numbers, it's a 50-50 shared special assessment with the city taking on 50% of the cost and the residents or the property owners on the road taking another 50% of that. And so Shiawassee Shores, taking them into consideration as a commercial property and the nature of it, is looking at 80% of that 50% assessment. And then the commercial properties that are active on the road are taking 2 times, or 2, I guess, equivalent of 2 assessments. And then commercial properties that are not active, that are dormant on that are taking 1.5. And so the residential estimates as of right now are less than $6,000 per residential unit. So that's what the residents outside of Shiawassee Shores, outside of the commercial businesses, are looking at for estimated special assessment. So hopefully that maybe clears up some questions, concerns, but again, I just want to communicate that it's very preliminary, and you guys will also have another opportunity that once the bids are finally quantified and once once City Council awards a bid, then they will pass a resolution to set the public hearing to certify the road. So then another notification would be sent out to all of the property owners again and give you another chance to come in front of the council and express your thoughts in front of City Council at that time. So as of right now, I don't have a date for that, but we will. And as soon as that is available, we will let you know. But we're really hoping in the next month, I'm hopeful that we will have permission from MDOT to proceed with the project. So we're grateful for the $250,000, but it does kind of slow up the process. And we recognize that you guys are frustrated with this. We are equally as frustrated, right? We hate the fact that we have to use special assessments as a mechanism to fund roads, but the plain and simple answer is the fact that we don't get enough funding from the state to supplement to pay for all of the road work that we've got to do. The city has historically always done special assessments. This isn't something new. They've historically always done special assessments. And so we're trying to, again, share in that, with the 50-50 and trying to do everything that we can to bring additional funds to the table to help buy that down for everybody. So that's kind of the latest update with Rolston Road. I know there's been some concerns with the amount of engineering that's had to go into the project, and I guess, Don, do you want to maybe explain a little bit about why and how we, had to engineer, Rolston?
Well, in working with our engineers, they conducted soil boring out in the area, and for you folks that live out there, I'm sure you see on a daily basis the drainage issues that are currently in place. Well, when the water can't get off the road, it just sets and seeps down through and actually contaminates the base layers. So that was confirmed in the soil boring samples that were pulled, and that's why we had to engineer to the level that we did in order to make sure that we're putting in a road that will have some longevity, and then that in the future we can do some maintenance, mill and overlays and different things to prolong the overall life of the road. In its current conditions, those options just aren't available. They just would not last. So if you went out there and did work and you didn't address the drainage and sub-base issues, in 3 to 5 years you'd be right back here again with a similar road condition. Asphalt just reflects cracks right back through. So that's why it was engineered to the level that it was.
Thank you, Ellen and Don.
Can I ask a specific question regarding that point? Is there
No, I'm sorry, sir.
Well, I'm not going to get an answer via email or correspondence, so I'm actually asking.
No.
It's an honest-to-God question that has to do with what's going on right now.
I understand, but
Is there a specific area of that road that has more or less?
Sir,
problems with the drainage.
I have to maintain order in my meeting. And my order is, they are providing a report right now. The next part of our agenda is a public comment where people can address questions. This is not the time for that.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
another question right now?
No, you cannot. I'm moving on to public comment. Any person wishing to address the city council during a meeting will get 3 minutes under public comment. When the public comment is approached on the agenda, individuals wishing to speak will be called upon utilizing the filled out comment cards. Remarks should be addressed to the presiding officer, myself. It is not time for debate, but for questions or comments for council and or staff. Questions will be answered if the information is readily available. If the answers are not available during the meeting, council or staff will contact the individual within 48 hours and respond to questions within 10 days or when the information becomes available. And the reason why Don and Ellen had addressed the update on Rolston at the time of correspondence was because they wanted to provide the information prior to the public comment. So if anyone, I do have some comments. There were cards in the back. If anyone else has public comments, those should be turned in to our clerk, Tessa Sweeney, and then they will be provided to me. So at this time, I would ask Monica Larner, and then Pam Howard is going to keep the time, and we'll keep that displayed.
I'm Monica Marner. I live at 152 West Rolston Road, Linden, Michigan. And the reason I'm speaking today goes back to the last couple times that I've spoken. So Ellen did respond by an email, but again, that doesn't give the information to anybody else. It just gives it to me. And so we need to have a better way to do things, I think, so that everybody can be on the same page. So I'm still on the Low-C Center. I guess there was a meeting tonight for the Low-C Center that I knew nothing about. Was that a public meeting? If so, you know, why weren't we able to do that? Because maybe I could have, you know, addressed these there. The first part was, there was 3 different parts to my discussion. The first part was on the signage. According to the neighbors and the Google Earth, those signs were not there except for just recently. The neighbors want their kids to be able to ride their bikes. I don't think that's too much to ask for. So we were told in the beginning that the programs weren't changing. On the food pantry, I still have a problem with the explanation that she gave me. She's saying that she can't know, who's in need, and so therefore they can take sacks full of the pantry goods and everybody else gets nothing. Well, by the same token, how does she know that there isn't somebody really in need, but because there's a stop sign at the door, I don't call that very welcoming. I don't go in there. I haven't been in there since January 9th because I don't feel welcome with the stop sign at the door. And then, it's going to get worse because now we have the water bill issue. So the seniors are getting double whammied, and then you're taking away another thing to help them. And the dogs, not just a dog, but the dogs that were off leash in the Low-C Center, that was an event that was Ellen was in charge of or whatever, so that is a liability, and then just to say we'll minimize it in the future, that's not good enough answer for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll provide my email response to Monica in reference to her comments from the last meeting. So regarding the signage in the parking lot, we went back in Google Imagery, and our DPW can speak to this because they're the ones that actually maintain it. The signage was there. It's been there since 2021. We have Google Earth imagery from 2021 that show that the signage was still there. And so it's something that we talked about that, you know, if it's not necessary, we can potentially look at removing it. But the city of Linden and DPW did not place the signage there. It's been there since the city did take it over. As far as the food table and its handling, it's been discussed many times since taking on the management of the center. Staff and members, and also members, expressed concerns over how it was previously handled. And we implemented changes to address that and how it was distributed, including coordinating pickups with VGs on Mondays and Wednesdays and starting on Tuesdays with Alpine. Our signage changes do reflect availability or not, so because we have a lot of people that really only come into the center for that, and so they asked if we could put up some type of signage to just say if it's available or not. And they would drive through and see that signage and go on if it wasn't available. So we want to create a welcoming, environment with everyone's needs are being respected, and it's not our call to know what those needs are, and we don't plan to limit the items based, at this time. And regarding the incident involving the dog, I was not in control of that event. I was a guest at that event. I was a speaker. The Fenton Linden Chamber actually puts that event on, and so that's something that they did. And like I said in my email response to you, Monica, that in the future, we will do whatever we can to try to minimize that, because we don't want issues or further issues being created with pets and things like that. So,
Great. Thank you, Ellen. Next, Rob Fletcher.
It's stated on my card, Robert Fletcher, 1570 West Rolston Road. So, according to your thing that I filled out already, I'm supposed to get a return correspondence within 10 days. Or anyone who's actually asked any question publicly is supposed to get a return correspondence within no less than 10 days. Has anyone asked for a comment or concern over the course of the
Mr.
last
Fletcher,
6
this
months?
is your opportunity.
This is my opportunity, and please do not interrupt my opportunity. I'm only given 3 minutes.
Sir, your opportunity is to address council, not the audience. It's not a time to take polls.
It's actually a public arena, which makes it public at this point. Which you have not answered any public questions publicly, which is my point behind the 10 days. You've also not had any correspondence with anybody. I've actually asked multiple questions. I've had 0 correspondence. She has, he has, he has, he has. You're running 100% on the negative end, on where there's response with correspondence.
Wait, are you talking about when you fill out a card?
Yep, because it says right there at the bottom, written, that you are going to get back with us. You are not getting back with us.
I am not going to get back with people. The staff will.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who
who are you in charge of that is not doing their job? That would be a great place to start. I asked you a question that was simply, is there a particular area of the road that is actually more problem with drainage than others? That's for public comment. That can be made later. The petition was shot down. The petition was shot down on the fact that you said that it was past delay. According to MCL 8.6, you guys did not file until February 14th in the paper, which is the day that it actually starts, but it doesn't start until the day later for anybody to actually make comments, which is February 15th. So we actually applied by March 30th. According to, this is by Michigan government, it says, the section applies to the statutes and administration rules in computing the day period. The first day is to be excluded and the last day is included. If the last day or any period of the field or final day falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday, the period day is extended to include the next day, which is not Saturday, Sunday, or the legal holiday. That is MCL 8.6. Please re-advise.
Thank you. Karen Breesball.
My name is Karen Breesball. I live at 4079 in Concord Drive in Linden, Michigan. My question has to do with the mill restoration preservation project. I was wanting to have an update on where we're at in the project. And is there any possibility that this could possibly be on a monthly agenda so that it stays in people's minds? we have $4 million sitting out there. There's approximately 17 months left. If I calculate this right, because it was granted in October, and counting the time, there's 17 months yet to do this project. Help me with where we're at on it.
Okay, thank you. We'll address that at council, at the manager's report.
Okay.
Thank you. Is it Mar? I don't know if it's Mar. Is it Marv Wickstrom? Or Mary? Sorry. Sorry, I couldn't tell if the Y was in with the H for your address.
It's okay. Thank you. I'm Mary Wickstrom. My address is 224 Hyatt Lane. My husband and I have been there for 24 years. And I'm here just really to ask a couple questions. And if you can't answer them today, it's okay. There's a lot of people who want to talk. So, first question I had is about road paving, but it's just really a rumor. And if it would be, is our road actually considered to be part of the road paving program at Hyatt Lane? And if so, when will that be started? And will there be the same kind of assessment? When will we be notified of the household, payment required increases? Also, the pavement, or pathways, is that still on the table or not? Or is it on hold? Has it been pushed away? And if so, does that money go somewhere else? Another question I have is, it's really a rumor about having apartment complexes, high-rises, put up near the school, and if that is something that's in place or not. And if that's not, maybe that is a rumor. I don't know. I just thought I'd bring it up, and if that's something I'd like to know about that, since we've been living there and to know what's happening. The third thing is like the water. I hear that, we're going to be connected to the main. And so right now we have an understood local well and all the testing. We understand what kind of water we have now. What kind of testing will we have now that we would be connected to the main? And if so, what other kind of costs will that entail? Will my thought is, are we going to be paying for double the amount of water and not getting the same quality? So those are just my main issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Denise Miller.
Hello, my name is Denise Miller. Got a good voice, you know. 522 Tickner, Linden, Michigan. I'm just going to go read right from it. When I came here to the board last year, I heard about water going up and being replaced by Flint water, Genesee County water. It sounded to me like the main problem was adding more wells and maintaining and retaining the workers for the water line. I asked at the time if we would have fees for us, and I remember being told there was none, I thought. I have a pipe that's less than 1 inch, so in June, doing the math, no matter what, the increase is 90 cents per 100 cubic feet to my water bill. That does not include the $52.75 and then a $28 bill, fee, because I don't even know what that's for. Our water bills are going up 90 cubic feet and then $47 and $52.75 now in December. To be fair, I think that people were told all this, they didn't know the terms around it. That's going to cost me probably around $400 extra. I know that my neighbor next door back in the day, she told me all about the water and how they got rid of their wells and they trusted the city, that this was a good thing to do. And now we're doing the opposite. We're getting rid of our water and going back and trusting another way that we don't know what the future is in that. But I know a lot of people's not gonna be all for this. I have a neighbor next door that's a widow. She's gonna lose her home. And I guess, this was a done deal with not a lot of communication to the citizens that are going to be paying that. I also like to talk about the Linden Mill Pond. I think that we should have citizens and dates of when the people that are going to be making the decisions, so we can go to future meetings. And also, I think it'd be really great if we could have microphones and the future meetings be somewhere where we can all get in and be safe and within the fire laws of this building. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shane Baker.
Shane Baker, 408 Maple Drive. I live in Lindenwood. I'm affected by the special assessment district as well as Rolston. Between my property tax going up, the special assessment district, and now the doubling of our water bill, I'm looking at another $3,000 added to my yearly expenditures. I too live next door to a widow. She may lose her home over this, and I just feel that this is some either incompetence or callousness made on your decision to do these things all at once. I don't understand why the citizens are being taken advantage of and being nickeled and dimed in this way. It's not very fair. I understand there needs to be improvements, but all this being done at once when we have a very poor economy is a very bad decision. And I would rather deal with a damaged road for another year or two than have to pay $13,000, $14,000 that I don't have, and I know many in my neighborhood don't have. I hope you really think about what you're doing to a lot of the families in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi Fletcher.
I'm Heidi Fletcher, 1570 West Rolston Road. What I'm up here to ask is for city council to reconsider live streaming or televising city council meetings. I know that there was a decision made by city council to not televise, live stream, YouTube, but I think everybody can see that we have a lot of interest in the meetings, especially because of all the things that have gone on recently. But we do have a large audience that's not being reached due to age, disability, families, jobs, and I think in order to do service to the city of Linden, that we should be making this available to everybody. When we look at the meeting minutes, they don't capture everything that is said in the meeting. And I understand they can't be 5 pages long, but I think that the citizens deserve to know.
Thank you. That was all we received for citizen comments. Next on our agenda, we have a consent agenda. There are 3 items on the consent agenda. Our city council work session meeting minutes from April 8th of 2024, application to use public property permit for river roast, and application to use public property permit for community karaoke at the Mill Pond. Is there a motion from council to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Next item on our agenda is the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 budget.
All right. So you guys have in your packet the preliminary budget. It's just a draft. As you guys all know, it's a moving target, work in progress, and so I'll just hit some of the highlights, and our department heads are here to speak about each of their specific budgets as well. So you guys can see in my memo that I prepared that we're looking at expected to increase, our property tax revenue is expected to increase by 5%. reflecting the inflationary rise and higher taxable values. In the budget, we use, inflationary and CPI considerations for a lot of our daily, costs, and looking at wage increases, looking at cost of living adjustments, as well as some industry-specific updates as well. We've talked about that and trying to bring up some of our positions to the industry standard. And looking at shifting roles and creating a new position for community coordinator and HR role to oversee the economic development, Parks and Rec, and executive director for the LoC Center. So looking at doing some type of a hybrid role for that as well. And then obviously our capital improvements initiatives include Lindenwood subdivision, Rolston Road, Ripley Road, water main improvements, connection to the Genesee County water system, Safe Routes to School project, mill renovations. We're going to address those as a budget amendment as we move forward. And so you can see I give a synopsis of just where we are at with the estimated revenues and appropriations and what we're proposing. So all those things that I just mentioned are what went into factoring the budget. We've been working on this a long time. The allocations just kind of underscore, the dedication to maintaining essential services and responsibly managing resources and things that we have and investing in the necessary infrastructure improvements. With that, I guess we can walk through each of the departments if you guys would like. And I will actually walk through, you guys, the revenues for Johnson are pretty straightforward and stuff like that. And you can see that we're looking at an increase to fund balance, but we do have a lot of projects that we have coming up that, again, if you guys remember our conversations from last year referencing our budget, depending on where those projects go, we may need to leave some to be able to accommodate for those projects and things. So revenues are staying pretty stable as far as property values and things. Moving on to city council and city manager budgets, other than just cost of living, inflationary, the council budget is remaining the same. City manager budget, we did include and incorporate that new position into the city manager's budget for community coordinator and human resource. So that's where we're accommodating. That's going to be a shared position. So it'll be shared costs with general fund, DDA, and then LoC for the executive director. Moving on to city clerk, and I'll actually, Tess, I don't mean to, I'm just working down through. So do you want to discuss the clerk's budget and the elections for what you guys have prepared?
So there's not much change for the clerk's budget per se. We do have a couple trainings in there for our municipal clerk association that Kristen and I go to. We do have our memberships to our county and our national and then our local government associations. And then moving on to elections. So these are going to be elections for August and November. This will include 9-day voting and a worker for City Hall and then the regular workers for the precincts. And then we go down to...
And that includes August and November election.
August and November.
And then is there a spring?
No, there's
Nothing.
nothing in spring.
Okay.
As far as we know, that would be considered a special election if
Okay.
we have it. And then those two are, so August and November are not at this time being talked about as being reimbursed, so that would be city costs as well. And then we have for election expenses, we'll have to do test decks, we have to do precinct kicks, we have to do anything that pertains to getting and running an election, we'll have to order for each election. So that would be covered under election expenses like programming and stuff like that. So.
And typically we have been reimbursed a significant portion of our election, but this year there's no talk of that.
That is exactly right now.
Thank you, Tessa. And so moving on from the clerks to board of review, that's pretty standard. We don't see any increases in that potentially. And then next would be the city treasurer's budget. Brooke, do you want to review?
Yeah. So my budget's pretty straightforward, mainly wages for myself and my deputy. Like Tessa would be continuing training, and my deputy would be starting her 3-year MMTA training in the spring of next year. And mine would be just continuing education to keep my MICPT certificate active. The mileage would be for us to get to our trainings, and memberships would be for our financial support memberships.
Thank you, Barb. Moving on to assessing, our assessing contract has been approved with the City of Fenton. We share those assessing services and we don't anticipate any increase in cost for that. Moving on to administration, you can see that there's nothing been budgeted for that. It's all zeros. That's one of those funds that when we switched over to the chart account was removed. So it'll show up because there's been past activity, we'll say. Tessa already reviewed the elections budget with you. Our buildings and grounds, this is one of the changes that you'll see from our chart of accounts previously, but this is what's going to house our community center expenses, our mill building expenses, and anything associated with those two. So we're coming in at an estimated $108,000 for expenses this year. And again, the mill building will be a budget amendment for that's sitting in reserves, right, Brooke? Deferred revenue. So it's sitting in deferred revenue right now, and so once that project gets moving, you'll see that hit our budget. So, but Brooke, did you have something to address in this?
And you'll see that there is requested budget, but there is nothing in the current budget. And that was an effect of our transfer over to the new, so that amended budget needs to be, you'll find it in the 371s. Sorry, I have so many papers. I'll get those numbers for you. So if you wanted to compare what we budgeted last year to what we did this year, they just need to be moved to the correct GL number. So that's why you don't see anything that we budgeted last year. We actually did, it's just in currently the wrong GL number. So
And I think you guys knew, when we restructured the chart of accounts to become compliant with the new requirements, there was a lot of shifting going on, so.
Yeah, the 371, sorry, Ellen.
Yeah.
You'll find those amended budget numbers compared to the requested budget.
Okay, perfect. In general government, that just houses, our community promotions, legal fees, audit fees, memberships, just general government that doesn't fall within another department and things like that. Our publications, all of those types of things. We've been working on doing digital record management for City Hall, and we're going to continue that effort because we just don't have the space to continue with all of the physical records and things and stuff. And so last year was our first year actually doing the digital, and it's new, it's different, but I think moving forward it's going to be something that's very vital. So we're going to continue those efforts. That's probably one of the other bigger expenses that's included in there. Replacement of the computer for council chambers, and then you'll also see at the bottom there for contributions to employee health. We have done an actuarial the past several years for our retiree health care, and previously those were taken out of one fund, but we're actively breaking those out, so where each of the funds are responsible for paying for that retiree health care, dependent upon the position and the nature of it. This also, this line item right here includes the additional, if you guys remember, when we had our actuarial done, they give us their figure of what percentage we're funded, and so this is our extra additional contribution to helping to get that to be funded. So. Moving on to 301, you'll see that there's nothing in there for police because that's all been moved out to public safety, and we'll get there. I'll keep going through the general fund budget. Same thing with fire, that's been all moved out to public safety, and it's on its own. Moving on to 371 for the building department, this is where all of our building official and zoning expenses are housed, and you can see there that we're requesting a budget of $23,340. Department of Public Works for general fund, I'll actually let Don speak to this if he'd like. So.
Sure. Is it okay if I just run through my funds with an overview, and then if you have any questions?
That's perfectly fine.
So Department of Public Works, as you know, we're responsible for the water system, sanitary sewer system, storm sewer system, road maintenance, building and facility maintenance, parks and municipal properties, and Fairview Cemetery. So my goals will touch on quite a few of those, and the budget touches on quite a few of those as well. Our 2024 goals are oversight and completion of the Linden project, oversight of the county water connection project, oversight and completion of the West Rolston project, continue overbanding and crack fill program on roadways, continue storm catch basin cleaning program and storm structure repairs as needed, the initiation of the mill remodel project, incremental remodeling of the community center that's been taking place over the winter, initiation of sanitary sewer cleaning and televising programs so that we can identify deficient areas, and then in conjunction with that we will have funding for structure and line repairs as revealed in that televising. We hope to complete a modest hot mix asphalt program in some of our roadways that where the longevity can still be increased. We're going to do some hot mix asphalt repairs, cutouts and repairs. You'll see that reflected in the both major and local street budgets. We plan to work on asphalt drive repairs in the cemetery before that drive is beyond saving. We are continuing to work on installing emergency generators for the sewer lift station. Our first attempt at a bid last year, we only had one bidder and it came back extremely high, so we declined the bid. We went back out to bid and we'll be reopening next week. So hopefully we'll have more competitive bids and can get it within budget. Next year we also are budgeting for emergency standby generators for the second two lift stations. And then we also, last year we revealed a drainage issue up in the North Ripley area, up by Birdie Court. So we are going to be completing a sanitary smoke test on the Ripley Road lift station this year to see if we happen to have storm drains that are connected to that station. It was actually overwhelmed one time last year during a heavy rain event, and in conjunction we lost power, so we had two things working against us, but we're hoping to see if there seems to be a lot of water coming into that station for the few homes that are actually connected to it. So it's just a quick overview.
Thank you, Don. So that pretty much takes us through majority up to solid waste. So solid waste, our contract is up this December, I think we determined. So we will be doing an RFP for solid waste and all of those things. So we're hopeful that we'll have some bidders come in with that. Moving on to the cemetery, this includes, all the foundation installations. I think Don hit some of the improvements that he was wanting to do. So we're looking at $132,740 overall for cemetery expenses. Planning and zoning, we don't see an increase in that. We will have the grant to account for through MISHDA for the housing readiness study. And once we move that project forward, you'll see an amendment come through for that. So that's where that will be housed. CDBG projects, we do have a meeting with the county, like I said, on Wednesday to discuss the CDBG projects that the city will have, that has been for the next couple of years. And so right now we're just anticipating $21,000 in CDBG projects, but we do have two projects that are supposed to be coming down the pipeline, but the way that there's funding year lines up, it may not be in this current project. Should be? Okay, so you'll see an amendment for that as well. Overall parks, and I don't know if you guys remember, but in each of these little funds, there used to be wages for all of those things, and they're no longer, they're consolidated into the wage categories and stuff. So you'll see that the play structure, upgrades, and then tree program. I'll just move on. The others, as far as capital outlay and debt service, those are same, no anticipated increases. And then you'll see operating transfers. These are what we're proposing for transfers out to help supplement those other funds. We do a contribution to major and local, and we do a contribution to the public safety. Moving on to major streets. I think, Don, you pretty much covered that as far as the road project. I mean, you guys know what we have coming down the pipeline for major and local streets. Let's see. Any questions on any of that stuff? I apologize, I'm kind of moving a little quick. No. So far? No, it looks good. And we do have the Safe Routes to School construction. That project is still slated to move forward and things like that. So moving on to public safety, this is where we've moved all of our police and fire out to. And so I will let Chief Sutter speak to the police, and then Brian can speak to the fire specifically for those two funds.
So in my budget, what it's reflected is some increases. I'm looking at buying some munitions. The MCOLS is requiring us, all police in the state of Michigan, to training for response to active violence training. We've done that already, met those requirements. But part of that training, we need the equipment to train correctly. And so that's one of the things. We're also going to 4 additional tasers, so that just as last year's budget, you guys approved radios, so that my officers, while on an event, or we have several officers, they can have their own taser on them and not borrow it from their buddy. And then also looking at a bulletproof vest. But it's I just was told that 100 Club's going to pay for one of those for us, so that's good news. And then a laptop for my sergeant. One thing, we're in contract negotiations currently, so the wages, there'll probably be a budget amendment after that's done. And one thing I want to build upon, we have some great community people, nonprofits, people that care so much, that are behind the scenes doing so much in this community. It's amazing. And I want to continue to build those relationships. I mean, we got Pay It Forward, we have FAR, we have, God's Love Foundation, Linden Ministerial Association. I mean, it goes beyond that. There's so many. And I want to just grow those programs and be a part of those programs, because they're integral in this community being the community that it is. And so we want to continue to build those relationships.
Thank you, Chief.
Part of the fire request budget for this coming year, obviously the salaries continue to be similar to what they have in the past. We range anywhere from 280 to 320 calls a year. We want to develop a savings program for future purchases of our large vehicles. Currently we don't have that, so this has been a blessing that we started to put money away for those $500,000 to $700,000 fire trucks that will have to be done in the next 5 to 7 years. We're already beyond our normal, but that's coming up. Some money in there for truck repairs to keep our aged equipment safe and on the roads and operating properly when needed. Budget money to replace some fire hoses that have aged, nozzles, ladder testing, pump testing. All those things need to be done on an annual basis. To replace 2 sets of pump control, which is our coats and pants that we wear during a fire event, and also to replace a set of extrication tools that recently have failed, and we got them back in order, but very limited. They're 45 years old now. So we'll update that with the battery-operated JAWS equipment to make that more efficient and a lot lighter as well. And that's pretty much all I have.
All right. Thank you, Jake. Well, that takes us through most of the public safety. Moving on to the DDA budget, we do have some capital projects that we would plan, and you can see the increase from last year to this year after we've done the analysis from the TIF district. Previously we were, our revenue was generating about 100 and some thousand, but after going back to the beginning of the TIF district and doing that analysis, our estimated revenue for this coming year is about $180,000. And so our DDA also does contribute funds to events, and they are the ones that do the Music by the Mill,
and those types of events, and partner with Happening in Linden as well. And this year for capital projects, we're proposing about $100,000 to make improvements to the Mill Pond area, the can't hear, oh, you can't hear, sorry. Okay, sorry. So making improvements to the Mill Pond area, including the pavement and things like that. So so that's what the DDA, we do have a DDA meeting coming up as well. So depending on what comes out of that, but that's where we're at. The next 4 funds, so you can see those. So the mill building restoration, you can see that's for the funding for the grant that we received that's sitting in deferred revenue. But again, as we move that project forward, you'll see amendments moving forward. And we didn't receive the funds for that until, has it been a month?
Maybe a month.
Month, you get that. So, so more to come with mill building expenses. We are building the public safety funds for police and fire equipment as well with the new chart of accounts. Moving on to our sewer fund, 590, you'll see that reflects all the projects that Don had spoke about too as well. And then this budget also includes the rates that Baker Tilly reviewed with us at the last meeting, so those have been incorporated in this. They were incorporated in the draft that you guys had seen at that last meeting. And Brooke, I think, provided an updated fee schedule for you guys as well, and that incorporates Andy's recommendations, as well as I think some just wording changes and stuff. So all of those, that fee schedule is built into this budget and supports it. So, and those, sorry, I'm losing my page here. The equipment fund, 641, is going away. So the old 641 account is actually going away. It was never structured. I think we've talked about this relentlessly, that it was never structured properly. And so we built that in within the public safety budgets and things like that. So the equipment fund, you can see that there's nothing budgeted for that. The city has never traditionally done like equipment rentals. So, and then you'll see in the next few pages the capital for the special assessment districts to be accounted for the debt to take on from Linden Wood, and then the remaining for Saddlebrook, and then the actually 868 and 86. You'll see the revenue and the expense side of that for Saddlebrook, and then the Linden Wood special assessment as well. So that's it in a Cliff Notes version. I know that's, but I wanted to have an opportunity for the staff to come and speak about their budget specifically. And I have to say that our staff has been engaged in the budget process since about October of last year is when I guess we started preparing like our timeline, and Brooke and I started working on all of the back end stuff. And then we did a kickoff, I think, sometime in January with our staff. And so this has been a long time. I appreciate our staff and their involvement in it, and you know, it's a long process. It's a cumbersome process sometimes, but we have some of the best staff around, and I appreciate their assistance with this. And again, you know, this is a draft. Budgets, as we all know, are moving targets. We sometimes can't anticipate what's to come, right? So, but I feel that we've got a pretty solid recommendation here, and so open for questions.
All right, Pam, any questions for Ellen or the other director?
Just a question, but Don, on part of your tree, the trees cost.
We can't hear you back here at all.
Yeah. Okay, so Don, part of your money that's slated for trees, did that come from a Tree City grant, or did you apply for grants for some of
In this current budget?
Yeah.
No, there's no grant dollars included in there. We did get a grant through Consumers Energy last year to do some street tree replacements. We always look for those things if the opportunities are out there. So even though we may budget for it, if there's a grant opportunity, we'll seek those out.
Is that your one question?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, Elizabeth, any questions?
No question, thank you.
Brenda?
Not this time.
Brad?
None right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry, when will we review again?
The May meeting, is it the 10th or 13th? 13th. So,
Our next review is on the 13th.
yeah. But if you guys have any questions or as you start to, please.
Let it sink in?
Yeah, just touch base with me.
Okay.
Brian said no questions? Right?
I'm good for tonight, thank you.
All right, thank you to our department heads and Ellen for the detailed description. I know it looks different because we're moving over to the new format, and I think it's helpful to go through and get that breakdown.
One of the other things I guess I just wanted to call attention to is one of the things that all of our staff has been actively engaged in is trying to leverage other funding sources through different grant opportunities and things like that. And Pam, you mentioned the tree program and stuff. So just in the past 2 years, we've had over 17 different grants that are outside of the city as revenue sources to coming into the city and that we're trying to bring to the table to help get these projects done and things like that. So it's a significant amount, and so we're going to continue to do that to try to help supplement where we can and get projects done. So.
All right, thank you. Next on our agenda is new business, and it's the audit request for proposals.
All right. So as you guys can see in the memo that's presented, we recently saw auditing services through a request for proposals spanning a 2-year time frame with an option to extend for 2 years. The purpose of the RFP was to engage certified public accountants for auditing services that are in compliance with state of Michigan and applicable federal guidelines. We are required every year to perform an audit, and the city received 5 proposals. Andrew Super Pavlik, Gaybridge and Company, Haven Group, Yo and Yo, and PSLZ, our current auditor. Each submission was thoroughly reviewed, including verification of qualifications and references were checked to ensure compliance. Brooke and I did a rubric for scoring, and we spent a significant amount of time in reviewing all of the content that was submitted. And so after our evaluation, we are recommending continuing our services with PSLZ as the auditor of record. PSLZ's proposal, emerged as the most cost-effective, and while still providing the highest quality to the city of Linden. Additionally, I did have conversations with them, and they're committed to our relationship with the city and ensuring a renewed focus on the city of Linden. They've expressed a strong desire to retain the city and continue that partnership for providing quality auditing services. So tonight we're recommending approval of that proposal, and Raina Emons actually is sitting here in the front row, and he is here to answer any questions if you guys have any questions specific to that proposal. So,
all right, thank you. Elizabeth, I'll start with you. Any questions?
No, not at this time.
Brad?
No questions, thanks.
Brad?
No, Ray's been doing a good job for us for the past, how many years has it been now?
Yes.
Been quite a few.
About 5. Right?
Did we get bids from all 5 of the companies?
we did.
Good, thank you.
Yes, we did.
And Pam?
Just that theirs was the most cost effective, and so it's a good relationship.
And we've had some good conversations and stuff like that, so appreciate Raina being candid with us and wanting to continue efforts and stuff like that. And like I said, just renewed focus. So.
Is there a motion to approve the proposal from PSLZ LLC for auditing services for fiscal years 2024 to 2026?
I make a motion that we approve this proposal.
Their support?
Support.
And Tessa, can we have a roll call, please?
Kasan,
Yes?
Colbert,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
and Armstrong.
No.
Motion carries. I just ask the members of the audience to please stay quiet. It's hard, there's a lot of people in here, but it is hard to hear, and it doesn't help when there's talking in the back. Next on our agenda is the city manager's report.
I think I've already given you guys an update. The biggest thing being Rolston Road, and obviously, Losi as well. We do have our Lindenwood bond sale on Thursday. I have a meeting with the county for the upcoming CDBG projects and the Losi ARP funds as well. So full steam ahead. We're gonna be finalizing the budget for final approval for you guys in May, and working through all the processes with the upcoming projects. I'll speak, let me go back to my notes really quickly. Mr. Fletcher, if someone from the city staff hasn't gotten back with you, I apologize about that, and we can definitely follow up. So I can follow up and address that as well. As far as the MCL 8.6, I can address that. Mike, you might be able to address that in your attorney's report. The mill project, Don, do you want to give a quick update on where we're at with the mill project specifically, I guess?
Yes, we had a secondary foundation and structural investigation conducted, and we did receive the results back from that. They came back that the building, depending on what loading requirements would be in the future, so if there was a change of use, then you would want to look at maybe making some structural differences, but for the current use, it's stable and fine. We met with the current tenants of the mill building just to start the brainstorming process on how construction may impact their uses, so the library and the museum. Just try, you know, if a contractor comes in and says there's just no way we can do what we need to do with these activities here, then we need to have plans in place so that we can accommodate change. And we are also working on scheduling a meeting. As I said at the last one, we have just about have our roundtable full of experts that are going to advise councils.
Thanks, Don. Hyatt Lane road paving. So at this time, I don't know where Hyatt Lane road paving would fall into line as far as years done, but
I'd have to look at my schedule.
Yeah, we can get back. But as far as the pathway project, I don't know if you heard that, Mary, or not, but the pathway, the Safe Routes to School project is moving forward.
Best case scenario, yeah. Fall construction. Worst case, spring construction.
Okay, and that's just for the pathway, not for the actual road work or anything like that. As far as apartments and high rises and things like that, I'll speak to that really quickly because I can answer that. So I think a year ago we had a preliminary approval from a gentleman that was looking at putting in about 75 townhomes on a parcel on Stan Eaton across from Hyatt. Unfortunately, that project did not move forward, but we've had other people interested, but nothing as far as high rises, but potentially townhomes or things like that. So there is some potential interest in it, but nothing's come forward since that last development. As far as the water and the source of water, so you are correct. Right now we're getting our water from groundwater, and I don't claim to be the expert in this, but we are going to be switching over to Genesee County water. It is not Flint water. It is Genesee County water that gets their they're fed from Lake Huron. So it's surface water instead of groundwater. Typically is a little bit softer. We have had the opportunity to go over to the Lapeer processing plant or the water treatment plant over there. They've had 5 different samples of our pipes from various addresses around town, running their water through the system and observing the chemical changes and anything like that. And I think I explained this at the last meeting that there was little to no changes in that process, so that was good to see. As we start to transition over to the water, we will send out, correspondence and what to look for and all the things that residents can expect with that change in water source. As far as the testing, Don, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So the county will be doing testing, and we will also continue to do testing on our supply system here.
Yeah. And I think, Denise, I'll keep on down the list to try to answer as much as I possibly can. For those things that I can't answer, we'll try to follow up with staff and things like that. So we are exploring microphones. I think Chris Kenyon made the comment that nobody can hear at the last meeting. Obviously, as we start mill renovations, we are going to have to consider a different venue and stuff like that, so that we have to take that into consideration. I know Tessa and Don are working on potential microphones and speaker systems, so that way you guys can hear us better. as well. So we recognize that and appreciate the comment. The water rates, again, we've been talking about this project for a long time. I think Hannah ran the first story about this project in 21 or 22. And so I think there was another article that went in the paper this past weekend kind of continuing that as well. And I guess I'll just point out the fact that the people that are sitting at this table are also residents here in the city, and so assessments and water rates they're all affected by as well, and they don't take it lightly, and it's not something that they necessarily want to do or any of us feel that we, you know, are excited about, but sometimes unfortunately we got to be the ones that are making the tough decisions and stuff. So I just wanted to point that out as well. So, and we will try to communicate, you know, for each of those increases and things like that. So look at the newsletter, look at the bills that are going to be coming out for any type of notifications for those as far as notices go. And I guess that's, unless I missed anything. So that's from her. Yeah.
One of the other things, the LOCI meeting.
So the LOCI meeting that we had prior to this was public. We posted it in the same format that we did, and Tessa, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. We posted it in the same format that we did our regular meetings. The packet was out on Friday. It was put on our website, similar to what we do our others, and we posted signage around LOCI. And we're moving forward. The council just decided to approve LOCI board meetings at the second council meeting, which is the fourth Monday at 6:30, ahead of the council meeting. So,
Any council questions for Ellen tonight? No?
Thanks, Ellen.
Mike? You're up.
It's been a busy couple of weeks. Much of it isn't reflected in your meeting packet, which is to say that I've had a lot of communications with the department heads, administration, on a whole variety of topics. It's an election year, of course, and so there's been a lot of questions dealing with elections, and I've done my best to answer those questions. Some of those things may pop up in the future. You'll see those on agendas, but for the most part, it's just answering basic questions that come. No developments at all with respect to the court consolidation case. It remains pending, and as I told you, and will probably hear me say over and over, it's going to be pending for many months. So it is, if anything significant happens, I'll bring that to your attention. No developments with LOCI. There's just really been no movement there. I've heard nothing more. I, of course, was here for your 6 o'clock meeting to hear updates on it, but in terms of anything else, I've heard nothing. The item about the petitions and the letter that dealing with the sufficiency of those, that's obviously been a big topic over the last week or so. That letter, I don't think it is speaking out of turn, was prepared by bond counsel for the most part. Council is working, the city is working with bond counsel. Bond counsel took the initial crack at reviewing the sufficiency of those petitions and reducing his thoughts in writing, which under your charter has to come from the clerk. But all of those comments are obviously very legal questions, and so it came from him to the clerk and then was published. I've had many conversations with him about that. I've shared my thoughts on that. I compared the petitions to the city charter, also looking at an eye toward sufficiency. The letter speaks for itself, such as it is. As I indicated, it covers legal points that I don't see much benefit in elaborating on here. I did receive an email today about noon from an attorney raising issues or taking exceptions to that letter, and I forwarded that to administration. I also forwarded it to bond counsel, if there's any sort of communication that comes from that, that'll be directed back to the attorney. Other than that, I think that's it.
Were there any council questions for? All right, in our packet, we do have department reports from the police department, code enforcement, Department of Public Works, and the fire department. Thank you everyone for those reports. Next, we'll go to council comments and reports, and Brenda, I'll start with you.
Oh, I don't have anything this week, thank you.
Brad?
Nothing today, thank you.
Ray?
Just a quickie, we do have our ribbon cutting for Box City, May 2nd at Linden L and May 9th at Hyatt. The kids will be downtown on the 15th and 16th. Each school will have their own separate day. Thank you, Ellen and staff, for putting your program together to instruct our kids. They're all looking forward to it. They ask where they can pay their taxes. So we'll teach them. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you, Ray. So we had received a question, an email asking about parking, and I indicated that I would bring that up at a meeting, parking at the library, and whether or not it's possible to have some spots designated for the library, because a lot of people use this parking lot during the day if they work downtown. So I think that's something that maybe we can consider, even if it's a couple spaces, and maybe if it has times or something, you know, library parking only when library is open. Something to consider. I did have a meeting with Ellen, Chief Will, Chief Sutter regarding National Night Out. We will be doing National Night Out again, and the city is taking that on. It will be on August 6th. We are still going to be doing that at Hyatt Elementary, and it's a good event for people to come and see police and fire, and it's a community building. So I did reach out to Voices for Children. They will be joining the event this year. And I know we have a lot of people here. Thank you for coming. I encourage you, if you have questions, to reach out to council and, you know, contact us. Also, I know there are a lot of people running in the coming election. If you have questions about what it means to be on city council, I'm open to you contacting me and discussing that with you, so you understand the expectations of the role in going forward. Pam?
I have a few comments. One is I attended the Genesee County Metropolitan Alliance meeting, and that was last week. And we have a roundabout coming near Linden at the intersection of Owen and Linden. So I think that's supposed to be coming 2024 later, or 2025. Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a circle course for me. Anyway, and then there's road work. Good news on 23. They're working on a study to find out why are there so many accidents on US 23 South. So anyway, so that's interesting. And then today, in honor of the 54th anniversary of Earth Day, I just wanted to say I have some comments just to address that. So Earth Day occurred 54 years ago on this day. It took place on college campuses and city governments and across the United States. And because of that one act, we have the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, which is now the 50th year, this year, celebrating 50 years of the Clean Water Act, Safe Drinking Water Act, Clean Air Act, Endangered Species Act, all because of that participation, which resulted similarly to you. So it's good to see you all in remembrance of that day when people got out on the streets and stood up for what they believed in. And then as Earth Day applies to the city of Linden, I think we should consider some ordinances or some I don't know, some way to encourage people to not put herbicides and pesticides in the right of way between the sidewalk and the street, where it gets the heat island effect. The grass there will not grow really well anyway. It doesn't get enough water. But what really happens with it, since it doesn't get enough water and it has that heat going, when the rains do come, it washes right down into the storm sewers. And that water flows right into our Shiawassee River, and that causes blooms and fish die off and many, many other things. And it also is what contributed to the overgrowth of plants in the mill pond, which we've taken care of. I mean, there's another bunch of things that contributed to that, but a lot of that was fertilizer runoff from our area. And it wasn't just stuff flowing downstream from Lake Panema, and some of that did contribute. And then third, I think we should consider the last part of our meeting, we always vote on the bills, but according to Colleen Cognan, CPA, or I think I pronounced that wrong, she's working with you, Brooke. She said that is not necessary, as we just went through the budgetary process, that anything that is adhering to the purchasing and budgeting requirements, you don't need to vote on. It's already been approved through the budgeting process. Anything out of that, so if we want to go buy a new backhoe or something that we haven't thought of in the budget, so Don, if you want some backhoes, we got to talk about it, okay? Anyway, that's what we need to vote on, those types of things. You know, let people know about the bills, but that's, you know.
Through the Alliance, are there any improvements in major streets that they have budgeted for next year?
Lots. I should
Any
brought my
in
presentation on
Linden?
Forsyth. No,
Any
not
in
here.
Linden?
Not here, but
Well,
I mean.
no, so we have a TIP project, that we've got, engineering 24, project 25, and that's for East Broad.
Okay.
Anything else?
Because we did have North Bridge last year, is that off the list? North Bridge from.
So Northridge, we've submitted the applications, but they've never, to my knowledge, they haven't been funded. So-
Okay, but it was on the list to be funded this next year, so was that removed?
I'm not familiar with that either, right?
Yeah,
We'll have
okay.
to, we can double check though.
Look at it.
Okay.
I think it was submitted by Don's predecessor.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Comments?
Yes. First off, I want to thank everyone for coming out and spending your Monday night here. It's much appreciated by all of us. Second off, I do want to take what the resident had spoken about the water. As I have talked to residents, that they are all equally concerned because the cost of everything is going up. So I am sure that everyone here will do what they can, and I am also sure that there are things out there that will help you as the resident, 211, so on and so forth. I'm sure that there will be things coming to help anyone that needs it. But thank you for coming. And also, I want to find out when we might be able to get a parking lot, or if we can do a temporary parking lot or something to ease the traffic, or the congestion of parking during the daytime.
Can't hear you.
The parking lot, I'm trying to talk about a parking lot, a temporary parking lot to ease the congestion during the day. People are having a hard time finding a place to park for our businesses.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next on our agenda are the financial reports.
Wow, it's a low bill day today. We didn't have any tax disbursements.
$71,615.64. Were there any questions on the bills tonight? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to approve the bills?
I make a motion that we pay the bills.
Actually, long enough, I'll support it.
But,
Fred supports it. Tessa, can we have roll call, please?
Dick?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Simon?
Yes.
Colbert?
Yes.
Hassan?
Yes.
And Howe?
yes.
Motion carries. I also wanted to note, I skipped this earlier, but I did want to excuse Heather McDermott from today's meeting. And we are adjourned. There are some students in the audience. Any one of us can sign your paperwork. Thank you for your patience.
And I hope everyone has a good evening. Oh, we do have our Arbor Day this Friday.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.